Good morning, everybody. My name is Robbie Phillips. I've been in this game now well over 50 years. God bless me. I'm not an IT specialist, so I struggled a bit with some of the slides. So if they come up a bit scary, then please forgive me. I think this is very much about back to basics and look at some little horror stories and images of what we shouldn't be doing. So the actual title is very leading anyway. I don't think a lot of us realize how dangerous a biofilm can be. Chris has already spoken about Legionella, and that hides away in a biofilm. And we can see a little diagram on the right-hand side, a picture graph on the right-hand side of what it looks like. So it's a very, very sophisticated colony. And we tend to think that these are way down the evolutionary table, but they're not. I mean, they may be, but they're very, very sophisticated. And they can grow almost anywhere. Good examples in your teeth if you don't clean your teeth properly. But we'll come, as we go along now, I'll explain to you how it's filmed, how it can affect our industry, and some of the science that can help us. So, objectives of water treatment is to make sure that all water is safe to bathe in, treated with the prime objective of safe, disease-free environment for all the bathers, customers, staff, and engineers. I say staff and engineers because they're the poor people who might be looking after a spa, a contractor, or the staff. So it's very important that we make it safe for everybody. We have free-floating bacterial cells, and they aggregate together, they adhere to a surface, and scale formation and corrosion, rust and stuff like that is a perfect base for them to start to breed. Multi-species biofilms exhibit new characteristics different from their floating state. So they're floating about in water, and we'll come to see they adhere to some satisfactory surface, and then they just grow very, very quickly there. Contains many bacteria, cast off periodically, we call it sloughing off, likened to a city where they've got sophisticated channels which takes nutrients to all these bacteria so they can grow and then they can cast off into the flow of water, okay. Because of the relative size of a biofilm, it's highly resistant to free chlorine and other disinfectants. And we've got a guest with us today, Gertie, who I bounce off her all the time. Cryptosporidium can be hidden in a biofilm as well. So we've got this massive problem shrouded away in places perhaps you can't even see. Wetted surfaces we'll come and see is very important. So what does it look like? This was a dehumidifier that I happened to see, and I always take photographs. And you can see this jelly-like substance on the bottom of the veins, which is a good example of a biofilm. How does it develop? First of all, it's free swimming. It has surface attachment, and that in itself is unique, which we'll come on to very shortly. Then you have growth. You have channeling the dispersed nutrients to the growing biofilm mass, sloughing, casting off a multitude of bacteria and other microorganisms periodically. So you can see it here. You can see that the actual it attaches to the surface, then you can see the growth, and then you can see all these bacteria come in off the actual biofilm periodically. We've got what we call flagella, please correct me, flagella. Now those are a very sophisticated part of bacteria because it enables them to swim, and then once they find the surface, it then changes then so it can cling onto that surface. So that is a very important part of the bacterial growth. Biofilm infectious agents in wet leisure facilities. We've got examples of Pseudomonas. You can see this, we'll see this, sorry, Colin, I'm not looking at this. Sorry, Pseudomonas, coliforms, Legionella pneumophilia, which Chris has just talked about. We must remember the perfect sites for aerosols to spread potentially over a wide area. Cryptosporidium cysts embedded in biofilms. Some of these can be fatal. Pseudomold is a part of the biofilm structure. This is what occurred after a biofilm being on an inflatable. And those are very interesting parts of my presentation, which we'll come on to. So, biofilms and relationship to hard water. We've been doing a lot of work with a firm called Sidon. And what we've investigated, with limescale, the biofilm will attach easily and grow rapidly. With biofilm established in an environment with supply of nutrients, it will grow rapidly to millions of microorganisms cast off into the system. Limescale can coat UV lamps, for example. Corrosion, flow areas of any water systems provides perfect adhesion sites. I had a camera, a 20-meter camera, went down a pipe, and this was in a slow-flowing part of a system. They needed complete refurbishment. So corrosion is an ideal site. And you can see here as the camera's going down, all this stuff is in this pipework. It's really should have been redundant a long time ago. You can see it quite easily. All the deposits in there. And amongst that is probably a biofilm. It is, yeah, but it was really slowed down. It was in a feature. So, cast pipe work. Good question. This is Jim. He's an expert on filtration. So, but that's a very important point. A lot of the old pipe work is cast pipe work. And if it's not protected, and once again, you look at your testing, which I'll come on to, you can have major issues with that. Cryptosporidium, as I said before, exists in biofilms. Sticky communities of bacteria can trap immobilized Cryptosporidium oocysts. Once embedded, the oocysts are shielded from environmental stressors such as disinfectants, UV light, and water flow. Studies show that Cryptosporidium oocysts can survive longer inside biofilms than in free-flowing water. The biofilm matrix reduces exposure to harsh conditions, allowing the oocysts to remain infectious for extended periods. So if we've got a biofilm, for example, in a filtration system, which is quite easily done, and Jim will be explaining that in his presentation, then you've got a perfect environment for Cryptosporidium to be trapped. But it's not trapped in the sand, it's trapped in the biofilm. So, you know, this is another one where we should look at our filtration systems, which, you know, is absolutely essential. Common examples in wet leisure where biofilms can thrive: spa baths, integrated spas linked to pools, hot tubs. I get the shivers when I say hot tubs. Interactive water features, all pools features which produce aerosol. Pools, so pools, as I said before, where you introduce perhaps a cannon, which is separate from the main circulation system. Wetted areas in and around facilities. I was talking the other day, and somebody was saying about these letterbox overflow channels, sort of about that wide, and they constantly get wetted on the top side, and they were getting poor bacteriological results. So I said, well, you need a method of cleaning that effectively. Wetted areas, heated surfaces. I've seen on splash pads with foam floors, cuts in the floors at 38 degrees. And you guessed it, I did a sample test them, and they were absolutely infested with biofilms. So we need to be aware of what we're dealing with and where it can. And we talk about spa baths. These two young ladies in the tub enjoying themselves, people walking back and forth there, and there have been instances when staff of spa baths have been infected by Legionella. Legionella doesn't say I'm going to only affect the people in the actual tub. It could be spread. And if you think of the outdoor water features, I mean, it can spread about 100 meters quite easily. So any people, immune people standing around these places, or staff or anybody, can be infected quite easily. Hot tubs, absolutely perfect for the growth of biofilms. Interactive water features, you can see those sprays there, and the water's blowing down away from those sprays. All those people could possibly be infected. Hydrotherapy pools and pools in general. This is very interesting. You should have a clear cleansing protocol for inflatables. As I said before, inside and outside. Why inside? because they should be designed with a big zip on the bottom so you can expose the inner surfaces and cleanse them. Why? You can see here, if you look carefully, you can see coming out of the seams there is an aerosol spray. So that's perfect for biofilm to grow within there and to be blown out. Legally binding acts. We've got Approved Code of Practice, Health and Safety Work Act 74, Management of Health and Safety Regulations, Cost Regulations, REDO, and of course L8, which I'll come on to. I don't know what happened here, sorry. That's what I was trying to do, my IT wizardry last night. And in the end, I picked my laptop up and I nearly threw it the window. Anyway, I apologize for that. Responsibility, who is responsible? We must identify the risks and apply appropriate safe risk controls. Responsible actions, responsibility of the operator to ensure that sufficient robust risk assessments are applied and reviewed periodically, and suitable risk controls applied and adhered to by all operating staff and contractors. Good example, go to a Welsh Leisure Centre, they did a Legionella risk assessment and nobody thought to look at the spa bath. This will take account of the site-specific conditions which can vary considerably. The potential for the presence of Legionella infectious pathogens must be accounted for and assessed in a safe operating procedures. But who is the responsible person? And this is what I've seen so many times over my career. I go to a hydrotherapy pool. The maintenance man looks after the pool, takes the tests, and also the physiotherapist. But they're doing different things. So they're not looking at a consistent monitoring. Is it the school head teacher, the caretaker, the head of PE? Who is the lead person on the site, and who is the Legionella responsible person, for example? Hospital, physiotherapist, maintenance person, parks manager, ranger, supervisor, they've all got different takes on it. Are they trained, and make sure that they operate to the same criteria? Local authority pools, a dedicated pool plant operator, hopefully. Very often, they only take a level 2 course. They don't take a level 3 course. Well, it's only a little fountain in a hydrotherapy pool, yes, but it can be, you know, a source of Legionella. So you need somebody on a level 3 course where we cover this. And as Chris said, we've just got a new Legionella competent person course. Hotel Leisure Club, the leisure manager, the fitness trainer. I've seen all types of people responsible for the spas and the pools, etc. Often we find the divided responsibilities with different perceived duties and can lead to confusion. We must identify the risks. What are the main potential risks in these facilities? In some cases, small relative volume of water per bathers, classic, a hot tub, biological presence of harmful organisms, critical temperatures. So, you know, I said that we should only run spas, as far as I'm concerned, about 34 degrees. But it's, you know, you look at a spa bath and a hot tub, it's not unusual to have it at about 40 degrees. And that is a major issue as far as I'm concerned. Aeration, what can be aerated? All things from showers, hot tubs, etc., etc. Ineffective filtration. Your filtration has to be 100%, and it's not like, well, you know, it's only in a hotel now, we'll put a cartridge filter in there. Is the cartridge filter, which is commonly for domestic use, suitable for commercial use? I would say no. Gross contamination not identified, and lack of clearing reactions, ineffective bacterial and chemical testing. And perhaps Gertie could pick me up on this afterwards. I mean, if you get a massive TVC in your bacteriological results, I understand it, that's a good indication you might have serious bacterial problems underneath that, because it tends to dominate the test if it goes to a laboratory. Gross contamination not identified and lack of clear reactions. One of them should be, if you've got very poor, dangerous readings, then you should refer to environmental health straight away. Ineffective chemical dosing. Would hand dosing be safe and effective for a commercial spa? Question mark. Is there an effective chemical traffic light system, which I developed? I worked for Bone Leisure. Very sad. 2 people died, 17 seriously infected through an infected Legionella spa bath. And it all emanated from a closure for a fire, and then they just left the spa bath standing, and when they started up, oh, we'll just chuck a bit of bromine in, boys, it'll be fine. Yeah, and then, 2 people died, 17 seriously infected. Is there an effective traffic light system? Sorry. Legionella major risk emanating from biofilms. Control of Legionella bacteria in water systems, L8. To comply with Legionella regulations, a duty holder is required to identify and source the risk, prepare a scheme to prevent and control the risk. This is a legal requirement. Implement managing and monitoring precaution, keeping records and precautions and reactions, appointed a person or consultant to be responsible for others, perform Legionella risk assessment for the building, including all potential wet leisure facilities. And then what we've got, which Chris went over, we've got to make sure as well, what is the point of increasing the temperature of a spa bath for a hot tub, where you get to a stage where bacteria can multiply much more quickly. What happens after the risk assessment? The competent person will list a series of control measures in the risk assessment with risk controls. These must be done in order to control the risk. These are formalized in a site logbook. It's all got to be documented. Whether it's online or it's in handwriting, it's got to be done. If you don't do it and something goes wrong, the first thing they'll do is, let me see your logbook. And if you haven't got a logbook, it's not filled in properly, and the reactions are not adhered to and logged down appropriately, then you might have a big problem. Detailed and specific, ensure it is active and proactive, the site logbook. Basic staff requirements. All staff should have recognized pool plant qualification to STA Level 3 pool plant. It includes this section on Legionella in there, Legionnaire's disease. Also, we've got this new course now for the safe operation of spas. Legionella, sorry. So, for example, pool, spa or hot tub safe operating procedures, technical operation procedures, on-site specific training, installers training and documentation, health and safety executive information for these types of facilities are readily available, L8. Contractors should also have safe practices. So if they are commissioning a new spa, then they should be aware, and you should check that they're aware of it and they apply it, okay? Contractors should always supply the relevant risk assessments for any work on site, and obviously this includes bacteriological control. Bacteriological testing, essential for clear indication of hygienic conditions. It's a health check, I used to tell all my students. Should be at a UCAS accredited laboratory. Normal suite of bacterial tests monthly. Legionella pneumophilia quarterly or monthly. I would question that. I mean, I've dealt with spas which have 100 people through there with Warner Leisure, 100 people through there. Dump the water after, but the point I make it is, should we be taking it quarterly or monthly? Clear directions for gross contamination. A traffic light system which we developed for Bone Leisure after that pitiful accident. So, critical key testing parameters, free and combined chlorine pH, balanced water. Some people miss this, they think, well, if we do the chlorine and the pH or the bromine or whatever, yeah, but it's critical. Balanced water, if you haven't got balanced water, this was the case down in this hot tub scenario where they had caking up because they didn't control the water. They didn't control the incoming water and they didn't control the actual hot tub water. So you've guessed it, every sort of 9 months they'd have to replace a pump because the hardness was creating major problems, and therefore you're providing a site for biofilms to grow. I said qualified STA pool plant, a competent person only be allowed to test after trained proven competency. We spoke about this morning upstairs. You have to make sure that people are competent in the testing. You know, they were talking the difference between a comparator. I'm colorblind, so when I used to run my courses, because we didn't have a test. Photometer in those days, what's your name again? We didn't have photometers, so I used to use, we used to do a test, so I used to bring the test, you know, up to the lecture room and say, and what do you think the reading is? And I'd say, I'd have a consensus of opinion, and I'd agree with them. Photometers were a different ballgame for me. Corrective actions defined and applied, the traffic light system with actions and reactions strictly monitored and recorded. And then what we used to have then, which was quite strange but very serious, you'd have Di, the caretaker in the school, would take the test results, and they'd be always the same, day after day after day, for 7 days a week. So I said, Di, do you ever have a day off? Yeah, Saturday or Sunday. Well, why is it you were handwriting on these test results? You're having a laugh, are you? But that could have gone to court. It could have been really serious. Potential areas where biofilms grow, corrugated pipework, flows from the balance tank, from the spa to the balance tank, which is just by gravity. So you've got a very slow flow in that pipework. The corrugated pipework is classic for some of these spas that they import from other countries. Yeah? And in that journey, bringing the spas over here from, say, places like China, it's got plenty of time to be static there, and these biofilms are growing. So when you first open, I've got a little slide on that, when you first open your new spa, you should make sure it's disinfected and cleansed before you use it the first time, and take a microbiological test result and wait for it to come back. Balance tanks, filters, heat exchangers, just after those, they can start to form. Pipework, slow, corroded, corrosion, scale formation, water rich in nutrients. And then we've got that classic thing, you know, people who go in, they don't shower before they go in, so all their cosmetic oils and body fats and all stuff like that is laying in the top surface of the water, but it can be rich in nutrients. Signs of biofilm present, cloudy water, thin ribbon-like deposits in the water, musty smells in and around the spa plant and the spa itself, sorry. Free or total active bromine, difficult to maintain to recommended levels because it's been eaten up by the biofilm. That's one of its properties. High TVCs, Pseudomonas E. coli, recorded via laboratory and swab testing. Prevention, design out areas of contamination, dead legs, corrugated and inaccessible pipework, ensure disinfection and filtration is fit for purpose, supply appropriate training, appoint competent persons, risk assessments and risk controls reviewed periodically, ensure correct disinfection to all parts of any water system. Traditionally in pools, spas are not so bad, not hot tubs, because you really mix in the water. But if you've got a pool and you've got poor flows down it, then you take a microbiological test in the shallow end, and the deep end is very low flow. You might have a completely different test result. So that's so important to that you check at both ends if that's the case. It shouldn't happen because it's poor flows. Make sure water cannot stagnate in any places. Identify the risk. We said this. I'm sorry. I think I've repeated this. Yeah. Sorry. Gone backwards then. Commission installing. If you have a new spa, before use, the installer should commission the spa hot tub to ensure it operates correctly and safely in accordance with design parameters. Must be carried out by competent trained people in a logical defined manner, following the manufacturer's instructions. If the hot tub is brought into use, it is essential that everything required is completed before reopening to ensure and set up safely. New spa, new hot tub, or one that's been drained down for works or whatever. New unused tub can still contain significant amounts of nutrients, microbial and microbial growth. Dirt entering during manufacturing, transit and storage, and during installation. Residual water left leak testing in the factory can be heavily colonized. It is essential commissioning includes effective cleansing of the complete system. That's chemical and physical. Okay? So it's not enough just dropping a few chemicals in. You should be physically cleaning it with brushes or whatever. And then appropriate bacteriological testing, chemical testing before use. Sandglass filtration. Now, this is, glass has come in over the past 10 years, perhaps, I don't know, a bit longer than that. You've got to have the correct flows through the filter, okay? Timing is absolutely essential. Observation of the wash water for backwashing, filter maintenance, checking, a glass panel on the side is invaluable. And I've got some very good slides of that. Sight glass for backwashing, some don't have them. Pressure differential should be monitored closely. Regular inspections of bed conditions. Fit for purpose mean have to be capable of safely providing safe hygienic bathing. Okay, now you've got to be a bit careful with this, right? DE, I've got a slide of this coming up. Pre-coat filtration. Cartridges, be very careful. If you've got a busy hot tub, a busy spa, then will a cartridge filter be fit for purpose and safe? Cleanse and disinfect at appropriate intervals. Effective flows, fit for purpose means have to be capable of safely providing safe hygienic bathing. I've said that on both slides, so I'm highlighting it. Is it for commercial or domestic design? Solution to pollution is dilution. This gives you an idea of the dilution we should be doing. Recommended is 30 litres per bather per day. Commercial spa is approximately 3,000 litres. So with a heavy bathing load, 100 times 30 is 3,000 litres. Drain down daily. And this is what people who've taken my advice do every day. If it's that busy, they drain it down, they fill it back up, heat it back up overnight. And thanks to Dryden, we got some so we're looking at the bacteria there. Bacteria stick to the surfaces. That can be sand grains, for example. Chlorine at 50 parts per million, it is sufficiently able to protect the bacteria. But we're going to look at the filter. The filter is absolutely critical. Why don't you have that? Sorry, I've gone through your... You can see here there's a biofilm growing in the filter there. You can see they're adhering to each other. The biofilm is starting to grow. And if you look here, you can see where you've got this, it looks like clumping on the top because I've got an image of that. But you can see this is where the clumps are starting to grow, which could very well be a biofilm, for example. Then you get channels in the actual filter so it doesn't work effectively. So your smaller particles can pass through the filter quite easily. And there you can see bacteria flocks will then eventually be discharged into the filtration system. Turbidity increases. Chlorine consumption increases. Like I've said, filtration is no longer viable or reliable. And this is the sort of thing that you see in the top of a filter. Now, what on earth is that? That's fatty deposits, oils, and underneath that, down to a pinch of you know what, it's a biofilm. And you can see these are diatomaceous earth filters now. The one on the left, you can see, gives you an idea of what it is. And up close up, that is, once again, body fats, oils, clogging up the filter. And we've got a cartridge filter which is perfectly clean there, should be replaced at recommended intervals. Some of them are on there for about a month. When you take them out, it's like a big brown mass. It doesn't look like that at all. Okay, spa hot tub protocol after a shutdown. What am I doing for time now? Drain down for safe hygienic conditions and biofilm elimination. Purge with chemicals. Essentials drained down and all water removed using spa, drained and pumped out. All areas cleansed chemically and physically. Walls, surfaces, balance tank. Attention to nozzles, returns, filters, pumps. Cartridge filters, consideration to replace with new, as I've just said, sorry. Balance tank in larger facility included. All brushes, cloths disinfected before and after use. Use appropriate PPE, refilled and tested for bacteria before use. Balance tank, I've just said that, physically cleansed, disinfected regularly. Regular inspections of it, safe protocols, drain down, suitable training and gear essential. Some of these balance tanks in pools will be down in a pit, so you've got to get specialist contractors in to do that. HSE requires 2 elements. Pool plant theoretical knowledge, pool plant to STA level 3, and site-specific knowledge. The site-specific knowledge is very often underrated. You know, your contractor should give you a good training before you even accept it. The following are actual images of poorly managed facilities which could harm bathers, spectators, site staff, visitors, contractors. You can see here, this is a not very well maintained balance tank. This is one where the gardener used to mow the lawn before they cleaned out, after they opened the hatch for the balance tank interactive water feature. This is one which fed a cannon onto poolside. That, what I said in the beginning, is the jelly-like mass. I like that one, so I put it in twice. Inappropriate, correct cleaning of walkways. This was in a top hotel where you had a domestic spa and you had a walkway to it. Absolutely disgusting. Swab tested that and it went tic-tac-toe. It went off the scale. Poor housekeeping. This is another one. This is a freeze dryer for a big factory down where I live, and you can see all the green deposits underneath the water, and there's foam in there as well. Shower heads. When I go to a hotel, I always check the shower heads. On one hotel, I said I'm not using that because it was all black. This why is that? Well, it says dirty. No, it's not dirty. Anyway. And then you can see the pipe. The one on the right is a spa bath overflow where you've got a bit of channeling trapped on it, so the flows have been greatly reduced. And you can see a lot of muck in the other one there where it's virtually blocked. Calcification in the actual pipework slows down the flow, and you can see deposits on the inside of that. Maintenance is a key point. We were talking about that this morning upstairs. How can you take a reliable test with that contraption there? And if you see the 2 ports there where you put the sample water cuvettes in, that was about half full of water. And all the test results were the same as well. So, contamination, nutrients, cosmetic, aerosols. Aerosol spas create huge aerosol disinfection control difficult due to evaporation and high organic matter content. Wetted areas, sorry, I'll just go for that. Make sure you've got good pre-swim provision. Toileting for young children, showers kept absolutely spotless. And we've got our own poster for that. However, Surface, we've nearly finished now. Surface has provided us with real-time testing. I used this when I had this outbreak. I visited 64 sites with Bone Leisure, and I used this testing equipment, and I thought it was brilliant because you get real-time. Test, treat, track, prevent. A practical work for spas and pool for water hygiene. Critical real-time results. Rapid response to organic presence. You can do due diligence. More site-specific advice available if you need some. Used for consultancy involving fatalities. Advantages, system can be used by staff easily. Identification of contamination, followed immediately by decontamination, resetting the systems, testing before, during, and after possible events, analysis, improvement. So we can do trend analysis with it as well. You can either have them little ones in a package, they change color, or you can have a sophisticated bioluminescence testing as well. And you can have a Legionella quantification test. Another one which is quite important, and I've spoken to Ben and Gertie about this. I mean, some of the places that they've investigated, they found that hard water in a couple of hotels in France have had high Legionella readings as well. Why is that? Well, it could very well be that the actual biofilm can latch onto this surface, this hard water surface, quite easily. Limescale created by hard water, biofilm forms and feeds on limescale. Legionella thrives in biofilm. And then you can see this is another one I took of a good one where all those hot tubs were involved. I think I passed it on to Seiden. Okay. Examples of poor practice, we've said. Timely reminder, last couple of slides now. 2012, 2 people died from Legionellas. 20 were infected after a wholesale warehouse in Stoke-on-Trent. People walking past it, they didn't endorse it. One, which I was involved in, spa bath left standing with water, still in the bath, still contamination in the bath, not effectively treated. 2 people died, 17 seriously infected with Legionella, all were infected from the same spa bath because they actually identified the type of Legionella. Any information and key assistance for these products, please contact me for Hygiena, Seiden, and the Pool Operators Club question and answer, which I'm part of as well. Working with the STA, I'm in the process of producing a webinar on this presentation. Thanks to everybody, the STA team, the Pool Operators Club, Seiden Water, Hygiena, Gertie, Professor Gertie. And that's my contact details. Sorry I went on a bit, but I thought I had some important slides. But thank you very much for being so patient. And if you have any questions, please fire them away. Thank you very much. Thank you.